in the book, it's a bit of a pivot too, but like chapter 3 is about scale, and you highlight some significant disasters that that seem to be expanding over time. That we've been talking in the safety community about like increased complexity, and therefore we're not only having more accidents, but we're having more accidental disasters. What did you mean by this in the chapter, like scale? And is there anything that we can do to create awareness of this, complexity, and the idea that, we're not only going to have more accidents, but there's actually going to be more accidental disasters?
Yeah, I mean, I think two good ways to look at scale and complexity. I don't know if you've gotten to your Charles Perrow in your book club yet, but tightly coupled systems and loosely coupled systems, and like how likely you're going to be able to arrest the disaster, how likely the disaster is going to be, consequential and monumental, versus not. A door blowing off a Boeing plane is a good example, versus a nuclear meltdown, in terms of how the scale of harm might grow exponentially. But something I like to talk about with this, because I feel like so much of safety science in the disaster world is like contained within the four walls of a factory or a nuclear power plant, in a way that, to me, is extremely focused on very rare things and ignoring that which kills most of us on a daily basis. But I think what's interesting about that is thinking about climate change. So one of the things we're seeing with climate change is an increase in very surprising accidental deaths. So in Texas, all of a sudden, which is a very hot state in the US, southern United States, there's blizzards, and hundreds of people die of hypothermia because none of the houses are built to stand a blizzard. Something we're seeing is horrible, massive traffic accidents at the US border because there's an immigration crisis, and people are filling vehicles with 20, 30 people in an SUV and sprinting them across the border, which is a byproduct of a climate change driven migration crisis. In New York City recently, we've had hurricanes that start all the way in Louisiana, coming halfway across the country and hitting where I live, New York City, so hard that basement apartments flood. And so people are accidentally drowning in basement apartments. So what we're talking about are failures of our built environment, of our infrastructure system, our roads, our homes, coming into conflict with a tightly coupled weather system that we can't control. And that's kind of what it gets back to. It's what can we control? And the thing we can do is build our environments, right? We can future-proof our environments for an increase in these small accidental harms that are only going to build in scale as storms grow and as weather gets weirder. It's not a pretty future, but it is something that there are parts of it that are in our control.
Yeah, it's funny that, what you're just talking about there, the houses, like in Queensland where we are, Jessie, see that we get these wild weather extremes, and flooding has just become the norm now. And the temperature this summer, honestly, I've never experienced anything like it and since I've been in Australia. I've been down here 20 years, and it's just unbelievable. But I've noticed the insurance companies now are starting to take a vested interest in designing homes that are sort of like weatherproof and that they can just be put back up again. It's something it's really, really interesting. So maybe it's obviously costing the insurance company money, right? So that's why they're taking this big interest. But